Welcome to Southwest Manuscriptors, August 7th, 2021 meeting, Zoom meeting. Southwest Manuscriptors has been the longest existing club west of the Rockies. It's been going for 75 years now, and of which Ray Bradbury was our figurehead, and he remained very devoted to the club until he passed. Our speaker today, very, very happy to welcome Desireé Duffy with Black Château. She's going to talk to us today about branding, marketing, digital, and traditional media. So Desireé, I will hand it over to you and welcome.
Thank you, Jeri. Thank you, everyone. Clapping for Jeri for putting this all together and doing a lot of this on the fly. I think you did an awesome job, and I thank you for inviting me, and I thank you, everybody, for having me. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation. Everybody should be able to see that now, right? Are we all good there? Yeah, there we go. Okay. When I was asked to do this presentation, I said, hey, what do you want me to talk about? I can talk about branding. I can talk about marketing, public relations, social media. And Jeri said, yeah, talk about it all. So what I did is I crafted a special presentation for you guys. And the whole idea behind it is I'm going to give you that big 30,000 foot overview of marketing. And to start that, I'm going to kind of step back and look at those old school 4 Ps of marketing. These have been around for about 50, 60 years now. I think they came out in the 1960s. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think if you're an author who is about to get published, you might be curious, what is your publisher doing? What are these things they're talking about? If you're a self-published author, a lot of these things you're going to need to figure out and do yourself. Even if you're with a vanity press or a hybrid publisher and some small presses too, they expect you to do a lot of this. And if you're in that stage where you are about to publish a book and maybe you're looking for an agent, then there's going to be some real vital things that we talk about, like your author platform and how to build up followers and build audiences. So that's why I'm coming at this from this big overview, because really there's something for everyone, depending upon what kind of author you are and what some of your goals are. And I know you'll have questions at the end. I can't wait for them. Please feel free to ask me anything. I'm going to scratch the surface in a lot of ways. I can't take a deep dive because if I did, this presentation would be 30 hours long. But here we go. Without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about this book, Marketing Mix. Again, taken off of those 4 Ps. Usually we have product, price, place, promotion. Now, here's the thing. If we were marketing shoes, then you kind of get, well, that's the product, right? So how do these apply to books? Well, in our case, the product is the story. It's the manuscript, right? It's the book cover. It's the genre. It's that total package. It's the thing that you are selling. The price, that's pretty self-explanatory. Cost, sales pricing or discounts. Maybe you need to take into consideration the margins that you're making based on your cost of goods. And then there's place. That's the distribution. That's what your publisher is going to do for you. Or maybe you're going to do that yourself if you're on Ingram Spark and Amazon. There's lots of different ways to get our books out there nowadays. As well, there's retailers like Amazon and other e-tailers. There's also apps that people can use. There's a lot of options out there, not to mention the different types of publishers. Again, big 4, big 5 publishers, indie press, small press, hybrid press. And then at the bottom there, we have promotion. That's what we're talking about today. And I wanted to give you that overview so that you know we're talking about one quadrant of that whole marketing mix. And when we talk about promotion, what we're talking about is branding, your author platform, your publicity, building audiences, and then all of that falls under 2 different ways of looking at it: paid and earned media, or organic and paid reach. But more of that in a little bit. I'm just going to crunch that up, throw that away for a second, and I'm going to give you an allegory so that you can kind of understand what we mean when we talk about book promotions. I like to look at it like it's a house. And the foundation of our house for book promotions is branding. Once you do the branding, everything else is built on top of that. The author platform comes next. You hear that term a lot, especially if you're talking to agents, maybe publishers. They want to know what your author platform is. You're putting together a book proposal. What's your author platform? Well, we'll get into that. Basically, it's your website, your social media, and I like to put Goodreads and Amazon in there as well. And then we have all of the things that make up your publicity, public relations, events, your SEO and your content marketing, your email marketing, which is really important for authors. Then what I put on top of all of that is that building audiences, like I mentioned to you, because that's what you're going to do in all of these places. What good is having a really cool website if nobody's visiting it? Why have a social media platform where you're on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, but nobody's following you? That's what building audiences is all about. And then on the tip top, our roof, are the two different types. We have organic reach and paid reach. People call that public relations and advertising. In the digital world, it's often referred to as earned and paid media. But that's our household. So now we're going to dig in a little bit deeper on each of those, starting with branding, starting with our foundation, starting with the very first thing that you should do. This is why it's hard sometimes when somebody's like, well, what social media should I be on? I need to know who your target audience is first. The first rule of branding is figure out who your target audience is. Chances are you've already done that in writing your book, right? And even if you put together a book proposal or any kind of an author marketing plan, you should probably do something similar to this. This is a profile of our target audience for a young adult urban book. And this reader, we've given her a name, Jenny. We decided how old she is and where she lives, her career, her income, what she likes, all of these things. Once you know that target audience, your demographic, that informs not only your writing, your book, who your audience is, your genre, but it's going to inform your social media, your author platform, all of that stuff that I just mentioned to you. The other aspect of branding that's also important. I think this is kind of what a lot of people will think of when you say branding. You think of the look and the feel. And I've decided to use our resident cranky expert, Stephen Joseph, as our guinea pig here. When you look at his branding, his look and feel, these are snaps taken directly from his website. And yeah, we made his website for him because we did his branding. But what do you get out of that? Do you think this guy is really serious? No, you get his sense of humor. You get his playfulness. He looks fun. He looks inviting, you know, the silly faces and everything. And that's exactly what it is. His book is a humor book. And it's how to overcome adult crankiness and embrace your crankiness. He also has a children's book about the last remaining dinosaur, the Crankosaurus Rex. The guy's a hoot. Check out his website. You're going to fall in love with him. But you really get what we're talking about when we're talking about the look and the feel of one's brand. Really, a lot of times when somebody says brand, you think logo, 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 logo. And I have a lot of authors say, well, I'm an author. I don't need a logo. Well, let's think about what a logo is really quick. It's that combination. It's the color, it's the design, it's the shape that all create this visual representation of everything that a brand has to offer. And I've given you a few examples. You got Black Château. That's the agency, PR marketing agency, a little bit, you know, a little bit professional looking, solid, firm, black and white. The Book Fest, which is another brand we created. Now that looks fun and inviting, as it should, as well as Books That Make You. That's our consumer facing brand. And you got it. It's about books that make you hope and dream and laugh and scream. So that's what we mean by creating a logo and a brand that really encapsulates the look and the feel and the emotions of what you're trying to deliver. Now, here I have a few examples of author logos. I say if you're an author or a personality brand, sometimes this falls a little bit more on the nonfiction side, but as you can see, There's authors that are on the fiction side where this works as well. Naomi Brett Rourke, they're on the bottom. She's a fiction author. She does horror and kind of twisted Twilight Zone type stuff. Sarah Winokur, take a guess what she does. Yeah, she's a geneticist, a genetic researcher. That it was her real profession. And her book is a genetic thriller. So you see that DNA double helix that we weaved in there. And then we have our Stephen Joseph up on top too, just to show you what his logo looks like. And just for fun, all of these we animated as well, which is just something kind of interesting we like to do on authors' websites. But when you're thinking of your brand and thinking about who you are, don't be afraid to brand yourself in such a way so that people really understand who you are and what you represent. And the thing that you represent, your message, is the next thing I want to talk about. I'm going to divide this up because the nonfiction authors, oh, you guys got it so easy, don't you? I mean, the book itself is probably your message. I always use the example, if there's a book and it's called 10 Ways to Lose 10 Pounds in 10 Weeks, the message, right? And a lot of times those chapter outlines is really going to just explain your entire story. It's a little bit trickier when we have fiction authors. A lot of times I look for that story behind the story, or what are the themes in their writing? What is it that they're really, the message they're trying to say to the audience? Now, the reason this is important, this message is important, it informs so many different things that you do, especially public relations, because I do want to touch on that more specifically as we get into this. It's your talking points. These become your areas of expertise when we're pitching you for media interviews. What's this author going to talk about? Well, here's the talking points. If they're clearly defined, you tend to be able to take them and infuse them everywhere. They inform your SEO keywords, the copy you use on your website, your book description, your bio. But again, it starts with that base of defining your marketing or your branding messages. Okay, let's get a little bit more practical. I know sometimes that branding stuff feels like it's a little bit up in the air and intangible. I like to bring it down into the real world because the branding, one of the main places it lives, you live, your book lives, the thing that you're going to have control of forever and ever, hopefully. Just don't forget to pay your hosting, is your website. The website is the place that encapsulates everything about you. You're going to have your blog there, which is part of your content strategy. You can have people sign up for your newsletter. You'll have your about section there. You see how in this case, we use the example of Brandon Cross. His personality, he loved the 80s. And you can kind of see with his website, he has this 80s vibe. And I have the homepage there, that's the first panel. And the second one is the about. So we kind of took snippets of him to explain the different facets of his personality. He was more than an author. He was also a screenwriter and an actor and an advocate for people with disabilities. So in developing a website, encapsulating and knowing his brand, we had to figure all that stuff out first. Then you put it all together in the website. And again, that influences a lot. You'll hear SEO and SERP, search engine results page. When somebody is looking you up, think of in the future when your readers look you up. You want them to find your website. You want them to see who you are. Same thing if a reporter looks you up, or if that agent is pitching you to publishers. What is the publisher going to find when they look you up? So think of those types of things because that all works together. All right, brass tacks again, social media. Step up and spin the wheel, right? There's all these different social media platforms, and you probably have your 15-year-old niece telling you, oh my God, you have to be on TikTok. Everybody's on TikTok, and you don't know whether or not you should believe her. And it can be so intimidating and so confusing. Here's the thing. This is what I recommend to most authors. Most authors. There's some authors that can rock out 5 different social media platforms. And I just wonder when they have time to write, right? Pick 2. And if 2 even seems too daunting, pick 1. If you rock out 1 or 2, it's going to get you so much farther than trying to be all things to all people on 3, 4, 5 different social media platforms. And then I like to break it down even more. Really, I think for authors specifically, the most important places to be are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. I'm going to throw a caveat in with TikTok, but I'm going to get to that later. Depending upon your brand, maybe YouTube fits you better if you're doing video content. Could be. Maybe Pinterest if you're more visual, cookbooks or anything that has, craft or ideas that are very visual. LinkedIn if you're more professional. So really think about the ones that you should be on based on where you want to be doing your social media, as well as where your target audience hangs out, right? If your target audience is Jenny, that YA urban fantasy lover, chances are you don't need to worry about trying to reach her on LinkedIn, right? And then the other thing too, and we'll get to this in a little bit more detail too, is for authors specifically, Goodreads and your Amazon author profile are a couple of things that are kind of like social media that you should make sure that you create. Like I said, I'll get to that in a little bit. First, I want to dig a little deeper into those big four social media platforms for authors: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I also see that Andrea Billig is here. So Andrea's probably giggling to herself because she realizes that just recently we've started looking at TikTok. For the longest time, it was like, TikTok, kind of fun. Kids are dancing. I don't know. But in the recent months, maybe 6 months, BookTok has become a thing. So I say, look at the platforms that you're going to be comfortable being on. If you really are an author, doesn't mind dancing or crying over your books or doing fun videos, then maybe TikTok's for you. You're a little bit more subdued and maybe your audience is a little bit more mature, you're probably going to need to be on Facebook. Again, visual things might be Instagram, and Twitter can be really good for anything that's political or nonfiction books, etc. Again, think of who you want to be as well as who the audience is on there. And the most important thing is to be authentic and be creative. If you're there and it feels like you're just posting because somebody told you have to post, well, it's going to be work for you. It's going to feel like work, and it's going to be hard for you to maintain, and it's going to show. So make sure wherever you are, it's there because you really want to be there and you're going to be engaging and have fun. All right. Let me talk about Goodreads and Amazon a little bit. We tend to kind of lump these together internally just because the idea behind doing both of them is to make sure that you're there when people are searching for you. Goodreads is like a social media network for people who love books. So obviously you should be there. Goodreads is owned by Amazon. Amazon, on the Amazon website, gives author in Author Central an opportunity to have their own profile. And what happens is you see a lot of authors that don't have anything there, or it's very sparse. Well, you're telling the people that are typically checking those things out, in other words, readers, and in the case of Goodreads, the readers are already there and they're sharing books and they're starring and curating their books. You're saying, I have no interest in, being part of this community, and it can be a little bit of a turnoff. So that's what I'd like to say about Amazon and Goodreads. Really what it boils down to is you don't want to be naked out there. At the very least, Goodreads and Amazon are pretty easy to add your bio to, your headshot to. You don't want to have that naked looking avatar out there, do you? And maybe just put a little reminder on your calendar. Check it once or twice a month and make sure that you keep that up to date. All right, now I'm going to go over into public relations. Public relations has several different components, but the very first thing I'm going to talk about, because I think it's the thing people think about when you think of public relations, is the press release. I believe in press releases. I've heard lots of people over the years say press releases are outdated, press releases don't work. I think press releases don't work if you don't know how to use them. It's just like anything else. Press release is a tool in your publicity tool belt. When you book an interview, or your publicist or your marketing team books an interview, chances are that host, that producer, is going to want a press release because it has all the information that they need. It's content that you can put on your website. So again, if your fans are checking you out and they see this press release, oh, that looks really good. It's content. you can share on your social media. Maybe tweak the copy a little bit so it's more consumer facing, but make sure you put it on your social media as well. In this case, I'm showing the press room page of the Black Château website. These are press releases that we put out. We have a page that's dedicated to them. You can see it's news and information about us. It's events. That's another reason to send out a press release in addition to announcing a new book. Are you going to be somewhere talking at an event, a book signing? And as well, we've gotten some accolades recently. We got a Webby Award nomination. So when stuff like that happens, you're going to want to send out press releases too, because heck yeah, you're going to be getting book awards, aren't you? So don't discount that press release as part of your publicity strategy, because it's more than just sticking it out and sending it out in wire and expecting something magical. You know how to use it, you can really make it work for you. Media pitching. That's the core of what you probably really want when you talk about public relations. You want to do interviews. You want to talk about your book. You want articles to be written about your book. Well, that is going to tie right back into those messages that we talked about with branding. What are some of those key talking points that you're going to be putting out there? And our cute little graphic here, what's the vision behind your book? Why my book is fabulous? Who should read my book? But really think of those and come up with pithy and powerful and informative talking points that you can share. One of the branding questions, one of the first questions I ask a lot of our clients when we start working together is, why you? Why are you uniquely qualified to spread this message? Now, your answer can help in that pitching strategy, and it can help in defining your branding message, because that's what that host or producer is going to be wondering. Why should I interview this author? What are they bringing to the table that's unique and different and entertaining to our audience? A few examples too, I just wanted to throw out there, because a lot of authors just struggle with this, especially if they're fiction. They're like, oh, I don't know, I just write books and I don't want anybody to think about what I'm doing or talk about. Well, here's an example. If you're a children's book author, and maybe you're a mom too, do you have advice for parents? Maybe children's activities? Maybe your experience in medical research has given you the ability to talk about timely wellness topics, in addition to the new mystery book that you put out there. Maybe you're a romance writer who can talk about relationships, give dating advice. So really think about what it is, what makes you uniquely qualified to talk about this, because that's going to help you, especially again with that media pitching. Influencers and book reviews. Oh, this is a biggie, isn't it? There's different types of book reviews. I could do a whole presentation just on influencers and book reviews, scratching the surface here, but you've probably heard of more of the editorial type reviews, like a Publisher's Weekly, Midwest Book Reviews, there's Kirkus reviews. There's a lot of those types of reviews that come from an authority. Additionally, you can get reviews from the media, from the press. Heck, it's pretty awesome if the New York Times is talking about your book, right? There's also book bloggers, celebrities, industry experts. You as well want the bookstore buyers and the librarians, the people who are within the industry that are hopefully going to buy your book and stock the shelves so that the readers can find it. And then there's reviews from customers, the readers who authentically purchased a book, such as getting in, that gives you the verified review on Amazon, right? And that can really help impact sales. It can actually even impact how frequently Amazon will organically serve up a book. And then there's influencers too, like bookstagrammers. If you're on Instagram and you're not following hashtag bookstagrammer, maybe you should. Same thing with BookTok or TikTok. Follow the hashtag BookTok on TikTok to see what's going on in that community. A lot of influencers tend to be social media influencers, right? And they've developed audiences. Their fan base is used to them talking about books and products and things that they like. So that influencer marketing is a big component as well. You're probably wondering, how do I do this? How do I get these? I'm so uncertain. Well, if you're with a publisher, chances are your publisher is going to put your book out on NetGalley for you or submit it to Publishers Weekly and some of those places. If If you are a self-published author, that chances are you're going to need to do some of this stuff yourself. And then with the hybrid or the small press, sometimes they help you, sometimes they don't, but you should always ask and find out, because I always recommend, and this is probably the number one biggest thing, mistake that I see authors come to me with. They come to me right after the book is out saying, now I'm ready for the PR and marketing. But you need to get those book reviews 3 or 4 months in advance, because you need to give the people time to request the book, read the book, write the review, post the review. That's why a lot of times books, if you're wondering, well, how are people talking about this book? It just released 2 hours ago. It's because they got an advanced reading copy or an ARC of that book. Give me 1 second here. All right, next thing I want to touch on are events. Yes, hopefully we're back doing events. Jeri was telling us about February. Fingers crossed that everything works good and that there's no chipmunks that are breathing fire or whatever the heck is going on out there in Tahoe. I'm not sure. The world's a little bit crazy right now. And the good thing, I guess, the silver lining around that is that we are able to do stuff like this. We're Zooming. I don't think Jeri would have Zoomed a year and a half ago at all. She stepped up to the plate, didn't she? We all have. We all decided that we could do a lot of things online. It's never going to replace being in person and seeing faces, but it's nice too. And there's advantages. For example, I put up here the Book Fest. That's the event that we do. We decided to do that right after COVID hit, when the LA Times Festival of Books was like, hey, we're going to cancel. We can't do this. We did it online. And it became so popular, we are now doing it for the 4th time in the fall. And the thing that it does is it has a global reach. The very first time we did it, we called it the LA Book Fest. And then I looked at the report and saw people from India and Canada and Australia. I'm like, no. I love you, LA, but we have a global reach. And online, you have that global reach as well. So when you're doing events like that, sure, it might be an in-person panel or a writer's conference, or it might be an online, much like this, Zoom-ish or StreamYard-ish type of a panel discussion. Book signings, that's another one, right? I think that's the thing. We all had this vision in our head when we were going to become an author, and it was us sitting behind the table with the big stack of books and the pen and people lining up. Well, book signings are still happening. They were waning a little bit even before COVID, but you can still do book signings. Not to mention, as some events start opening up, again, like the LA Times Festival of Books, a lot of times you can do in-booth signings. That's one of the things we do, or you can even get your own booth there or partner with a membership organization. Author readings, that's another type of an event. We do a couple. We do the Beachbound Book Bash every year. We've done scary stories during Halloween time where authors read scary stories. And be creative with this. This is something where, depending upon what your book is about, I don't know, maybe you can get a booth, I should say, at your local street fair, community fair, farmer's market. Would that work for your book? Reach the community that way? If your message is for children, what about libraries? What about your local school? What about your kids' school or your grandkids' school? Maybe you could talk to them and go in and do a reading session. Are you a poet? Oh my goodness, you got lots of options then. There's poetry slams and lots of fun stuff you can do there. So make sure you're exploring your events opportunities as well as part of your author platform. SEO and content marketing. I probably just made half of you go, what? No, don't talk about technical stuff, Desireé. I hate that. Yuck, I don't know what that means. All SEO and content really mean are putting really great content, generally blogs or videos, on your website and dispersing it through all of those channels that we've already highlighted, your social media, and I'm going to get into your newsletter in a little bit. Your SEO keywords can be derived from your branding. What messages do you want to get out there? What's your book about? What is the person who's searching for you need to put into a search engine in order to find you? Are they somebody who is looking for healthcare and wellness tips? And that's what your book's about. Well, then your keywords should be in that same vein, and your website should be created with SEO in mind. And when you create your content, you should do it with those keywords in mind. And the great thing too is, again, you can use that blog content in so many different ways. It has like these multi-tendrils that just branch out. So don't be afraid of your SEO strategy. The good news there is for authors, your SEO strategy is like SEO light compared to somebody who's selling shoes or high impact or high cost items like cars. It's just not as competitive for you. Okay. I've mentioned email marketing, and now I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive here as well. It's been said that it's one of the best methods of marketing ever. And for authors, it's no different. The reason is that if you have somebody's email address and you're sending them email newsletters or frequent updates, you're directly connecting with them. You have their information. And if you ingratiate yourself to them with your email marketing, they can become a fan. They can become your advocate. Trust me, I sign up for a lot of authors' newsletters because that's the business I'm in. And I feel like I know them because I see them messaging me on email. Sometimes I don't even click through because I don't have time, but if they have a catchy subject line, if I see that they're coming out with a new book, it sticks with me. And there's a few things you can do with your email list as well. So, chances are you're going to have MailChimp or Constant Contact. There's a lot of other ones out there. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of all your options, but make sure you have that sign up available on your website. This is just an example of our Books That Make You website. If you go there and you want to sign up, we make it nice and simple and easy. There's a pop-up overlay that comes up if you're on our blog so that it reminds you to sign up. Also, you can put that call to action for your newsletter, the CTA, that's what call to action stands for. You can put it on your social media as well. In this case, we put it on a Facebook page. That way, you're giving people the opportunity to sign up for your newsletter. Don't be afraid to tweet about it too, or put it out there on Facebook. Hey, if you haven't signed up for my newsletter yet, make sure you're doing it. I'm going to give away something really cool at the end of the week. You don't want to miss it. So I've mentioned that audience building now several times as being so important. This is why. So I just talked about your website and your social media and your email and all of these things for your author platform, right? What happens if nobody's listening? Writing an amazing book is then akin to creating the most beautiful piece of music and playing it to an empty room. That's not what we want. And when that agent or that publisher says they want to know what your author platform is, this is actually what they mean. Yeah, they want to know that you do have a website. They want to know what your website traffic is. They want to know not just that you have a Facebook and a Twitter account. They want to know how many followers you have and what kind of engagement you get. They don't care if you have a newsletter and it has 20 people that are subscribed to it. They want to know you have 2,000 fans as part of your newsletter because they know that those audiences could turn into fans of your book and buy your book. And that means they're more apt to bring you on as a client or an author. So what does that exactly mean? Let me tell you a little bit about building audiences in some of the places that we've already discussed. How many followers you have on social media matters. Again, like I said, to agents and publishers. And the thing too is if you're self-publishing, then it matters because you're going to need to market to them. You're going to need to promote all of this information to them. I consider Facebook to be probably the most robust platform when it comes to advertising. There's no secret that Facebook retains a lot of information about its users. That's what it does. That's why Facebook is free. It's not free. It has everybody's information that uses it. I like to think, though, in the bookish world, at least we're using that information to good. We're promoting books and not weird conspiracy theories or anything like that. But Facebook is probably one that you'd want to be on. The other thing to remember, too, is Facebook owns Instagram. So if you're doing any kind of cross advertising between those two platforms, it's really easy to do it within your Facebook dashboard. Twitter, Google advertising, Pinterest, all of them, Amazon even, Amazon advertising, they're all fundamentally set up the same way. So if you're ready to take on advertising and build audiences there, I recommend if you do it on Facebook first, all the other ones will seem a little bit easier because they're all very, very similar. Okay. Building audiences now, as it pertains to email marketing. Okay, I just did my whole spiel about why you should have email marketing as part of your marketing mix, right? Well, not only is it going to impress those agents and publishers when you go to them and say, yeah, I've got 2,000 people following or signed up for my email list, but you can then really have fun engaging with your fans and be creative. If you write cozy mysteries, well, cozy mysteries are famous for those recipes, right? Cupcakes and cookies and cocktails and all of that. You can put that into your cozy mystery newsletter. You can give shout outs to your fellow authors. That's the great thing about having an organization like this. I'm sure you guys are all friends. Somebody's book is coming out before yours. You can tell your newsletter list, vice versa. Self-help book authors. You can do things like motivational tips. Again, if you're doing an event or anything like that, use the content from your website's blog. If you're going to blog once a month, you're going to have one topic once a month. Then once a month, when you send out your newsletter, that article goes into your newsletter. So you got a 1-2 punch, and that content isn't just being sent out once. You're repurposing it over and over again. And once you get your content strategy kind of rocking and rolling over a few years, you can go back. If you have something that's evergreen, in other words, it's an article that was written maybe in 2018, but it's still relevant today, send it out again. It'll feel fresh and new to people who might have read it before. And for people who haven't, it will be fresh and new. Think about when people sign up for your newsletter. A drip email campaign or a drip campaign is when you automatically, or it's email automation. It's when people will automatically get that email. So don't just have them sign up and not get any kind of confirmation or get anything from you. Send them that thank you email. Consider putting something in it. You'll hear this a lot. Offer them something. You might need to offer that fan a few things before you can get them to buy your book. Maybe you're offering them a free chapter, free download, the ability to enter a contest. Don't be afraid to give them things, and you do that with your first email to them. Same thing as when you add names to a database. Say, for example, you've done a contest and you've got 500 new email addresses. Well, send them a welcome email. Remind them why they're there so they don't report you as spam. Ingratiate yourself to them. Give them quick and easy outs too. We actually say to new people, hey, if you don't want to be here, kindly unsubscribe. With tongue in cheek, I say that's how we get rid of the riffraff. Trust me, if somebody is not going to be your fan, you don't want them on your list. If they're really not going to ever order and they're not going to care about your content, you want them to go away. This is an example. We had Brandon up before with this website. This is an example of his email that went out. And you can see how he's fun. He's engaging. He says, hey, if you don't want to be here, you can opt out. And this one had an open rate of 43%. Now, I don't know if you know much about email marketing, but having an open rate of 10% is usually really good. So that was something that was really awesome for him, because he just really was able to captivate the attention of his fans and followers with his email marketing. Okay. A little bit more on building audiences, doing just promotions and contests. We like to do giveaways, and there's other companies out there that do bookish giveaways. We will couple books together, do several in one pack. And in some cases, we'll do custom giveaways. There's plenty of different platforms you can use. Rafflecopter is the one that we used to use. Actually, now we use King Sumo. There's other ones out there. But again, the whole idea is to create a contest. And again, you might even want to get together with some of your author friends and give away a 3-pack of books. Add some little freebies and extras to it. And in the example here, we did like a summer giveaway. And we included a pool floaty and some pirates booty and a reading light and sunglasses. So you can have fun with that. And the cool thing about contests is when they enter, you can give them more entries, more chances to win if they follow you on social media. Then you're building your social media audience. They have to give you an opt-in to your email list. They'll give you their email address. And that's how you then take that email list and you put it in your Constant Contact or your MailChimp, and you build up your email list. So you see how, when we say we're building audiences by doing contests, it's not just, hey, let's have fun and do this contest. I mean, that's kind of cool, but you've got a few other strategies behind it that actually help build up your audiences. Events. Okay, like we said, we think events are back, or hopefully coming back. When you're out there at a live event, don't be afraid to put out a sign-up sheet for your newsletter. Or if you want to be more clever and have fun with it, maybe you give them something. I used to give away fuzzy socks just because I feel like when people cozy up with a good book, you put on your pair of fuzzy socks and you get your hot tea, and it's just very visceral. And we also gave away like big packs of prize packs with books and things. This picture was taken at Stanley's Comic-Con a few years back. It was Halloween time, as you can see. So we also put out some candy. And then when you get that list, list of people that were at that event, you can put that into your constant contact or your MailChimp as well, and do that whole method that we talked about as far as ingratiating them with your email marketing. Oh, the other thing I was going to say too is at some conferences, some writers' conventions and conferences, sometimes they'll have the attendee list. Especially if you paid to be there, ask for it. Because if you can get that, then you should be able to hopefully digitally get a list of emails, and it's a little bit easier for you. Okay, this is going to get a little heady, and I'm just going to touch on it. I just want you to be aware that this is there, especially if you end up hiring somebody to do your advertising, or if you're kind of wondering what your publisher is doing in the world of digital advertising. You build audiences when you do your advertising. This is just a little peek into, this is Facebook. But again, platforms, other social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram, Google Ads, they're all pretty much the same. They give you the opportunity to go in and build audiences. And when I say that, I mean that you can pick out what their demographic is, how old they are, their gender, their interests, their location. Heck, even comp titles come into play here. What other books are they reading that are like yours? Do they like the Marvel universe and you're coming out with a graphic novel about superheroes? That's all available when you go in and you do advertising with any of these platforms. The other thing that I wanted to quickly touch on is once you have that email list in your constant contact and they're good and you've got this solid list, you can even tag them or maybe drill them down. Your top fans, maybe you got a list of 500 top fans. These are the people, they love your books. They are always there buying them. They're engaging with everything. You can even take that list and upload it into advertising platforms, the email list, as long as they use that same email on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is. Facebook is going to see that and they'll be able to target them. So you can do remarketing to them there. And then you can also build what's called lookalike audiences, where Facebook will look for other people very similar to that list of 500 super fans that you just uploaded, so that you can then target them. So there's a few kind of tricks and things that you can do with building audiences with your paid advertising as well. We're getting close to the end, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast. I get excited, and I hope that you guys are too, and I can't wait for your questions here at the end. Okay, I want to touch on groups. And again, I'm just using Facebook as the example, but there's different ways that there are groups and lists in different social media platforms. They're all a little bit different, but the groups, especially on Facebook, because they recently, about 6 months ago, they kind of tweaked their look and their feel. If you remember that, it kind of looks a little bit different, but then they also are now paying more attention to groups. You might see groups and the content being served up more often in your Facebook feed. Because Facebook is now all about groups. The cool thing about groups is you can go there and you can network with them. You can post in those groups about your book and your content as long as it's relevant. And you can really find a fan base within these different pockets within Facebook, and again, within other places too. And when I say other places like Instagram or TikTok, Twitter, all of those social media platforms are more hashtag centric. Facebook, I don't know, you can put hashtags, it's just never caught on. But, you know, especially on Instagram, that's where you have all of the book lover type hashtags. And on TikTok, you have book talk. and all of the different book lovers who are using hashtags. And when you follow a hashtag, you'll see that content. When you use that hashtag, it's like you're tagging your content so that people who are in that same vein, that's their interest, that's what they're into too. That way they'll see your content when they search for those hashtags. There's just a few groups. And by the way, if you don't start taking pictures, I know this is being recorded, that's great. Anybody who wants a copy of this presentation, just let me know, or I can send it to Jeri too, and you can get it if you wanted to check these out. I just did a little bit of homework and put together a list of Facebook groups that you might find helpful. There's a couple that fall under author support, where you're just networking with other authors, with potential authors, ones that have resources and tips, and ones that do promotions. Groups are really good for doing promotions, and there's a whole strategy about using groups to promote and boost up your posts too. But at any rate, I just wanted to put that in there. Remember, be interactive, don't be spammy, don't turn them off. But if done right, groups can be a great way to find your fans and build up your. One of the last things I'm going to say is the key to being on social media, building those audiences, getting that fan base, is being social. Don't want to be that wacky, waving, inflatable arm guy on the corner, outside the car lot. I guess he gets your attention, but he kind of annoys you at the same time. Well, that's the way it is on social media too. You don't want to just be the person running around going, buy my book, look at my blog, look at this, look at me, look at what I did, I'm at an event. You want to go out there and see what other people are doing. Comment on their stuff. Be their advocate. Tell them when you think that they did something that's awesome. Talk to them about a topic that's compelling. If they're posting about something that's timely, interact with them. When you're engaging with people on social media, when you're authentic, that's the best way really to get fans and followers. They're so much more dedicated, so much more passionate. They're just better followers than if you're buying them and you're doing all of these different strategies to pick up audience members and build audiences through all of these other techniques. You be yourself, just like within life. People are going to recognize that and gravitate to you. That said, I'm done. Jeri, I'm done. Do we have any questions?
Desireé, thank you so very much. I know for myself, you've clarified a lot of things that I was in a fog about. And as so many, I think, of us creative people, to become self-promoting is just a very, very difficult thing to do. So this has really been a fantastic presentation to help, I would say, the vast majority of us to get to a next level. So thank you so much. So I'm going to mute myself now, and I guess let's get some questions, and I guess first come, first serve, whoever gets the mic first.
You're ahead. On chat also.
Yes. Also, we can look at the chat for questions, but Faith, why don't you, I know you had a couple of questions. Why don't you go ahead and start, ask the couple of questions that you posted on chat.
Okay. One of the most important ones for me is I've gotten this flyer about your personal biographer. It's called storyterrorist.com, and they take your information and they write the story, and with the author participating 100%, and they get paid for doing that, obviously. And then you can get the a loan type of okay to go and promote it yourself. But what I was wondering, what anybody knows about these companies that will write for you. It's like a ghostwriter.
Yeah, well, I'll speak a little bit, and yeah, if anybody else has thoughts too. I would see if you can find examples and reviews of people that they worked with in the past.
Okay.
Honestly, if you're going to hire a ghostwriter, you might want to find somebody that you're in the writing community. You're going to know people who do that, and so many of them are brilliant at doing it. My only hesitation is when you have that cookie cutter approach, then you get a cookie cutter result.
Mm-hmm.
And what your goal is might be predicated on what you do. If maybe you've got a business and you kind of just want something out there as a calling card, and it's like, people read it, great. If not, then maybe that's the way to go. But if it's really going to be something that's based on your heart and soul that your grandchildren are going to read, I would want to make sure that it's the best that it absolutely can be.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to jump in? Have any questions here? You can also raise your hand. Well, again, you know how to contact Desireé, and all the information also is on the flyer for announcing of the program. And I just want to thank you again so much, Desireé. This has been, again, there's so much us creative people are just feel stymied by not knowing how to take it to a next level. So it's fantastic to have you as a resource and to welcome you among the group. So
My pleasure. Thank you, Jeri.
So we look forward to seeing you continue. And I'm going to go ahead and stop recording at this time. However, people, please hang around and we can have some catch up and chat afterwards. Thank you again. I'm Jeri Fonté, Program Director. I always forget to introduce myself, I think, at the beginning. Program Director of Southwest Manuscripters. Thank you very much, Desireé.